Okay, so this is, much like most of my videos, the scratching the surface of a very important topic. In this case, I don't always talk about this directly. I usually try and design my writing projects so that it's less of an issue. But let's talk about academic honesty, dishonesty, and plagiarism. It is a key lesson. It is an important consideration. It is only necessary to talk about with people who don't want to do the work or are so stressed that their problem-solving mechanism is to get someone else to do the work for them. People get put into weird situations all the time. But let's talk through this. One, there are plenty of places you can go to buy essays. That's the truth. What many students don't know is Google searches through these, Turnitin searches through these. A lot of plagiarism checkers can go online, can recognize these. And more than that, a lot of teachers who have read thousands and thousands of essays can recognize when something is not written by the student who's turning this material in. Whatever the case, it's unwise, for one. It's like it's the equivalent of a get rich quick scheme, but with academia and college writing. So don't do anything like this. I'm going to close with not that one. Okay, so let me go to this. So let's just define it. So there's academic honesty. That means everything you turn in, you're honest about. Every piece of work that you turn in should be your own work. Bottom line. Now, academic dishonesty is where you turn in someone else's work for credit. It'd be like getting paid. It'd be like getting paid to have someone else do your job. So we can talk through this, but let's just cover some basics. There are some finessing things that we'll do, but let's just cover some basics. Borrowed thoughts, borrowed text, or borrowed information without citation is plagiarism. So borrowing thoughts, text, or information from another source without properly citing that source counts as plagiarism. You are using someone else's words, and it is giving the impression that they are your own. That's why it's important. There are some ups and downs on this, but the safest way to not do this is anything, even if it's just a 2 or 3 word snippet that you're borrowing, needs a citation. Every sentence that you borrow. There's some things governing based on citation style, whether you can continue the author's name or just include a page number or just include or something like that. And those are some of the fine tunings. But the bottom line is if you're borrowing someone's thoughts, someone's text, specific words or information without citing them in the sentence, you are plagiarizing, and that comes with severe consequences. It's also academically dishonest to have someone else write your essay or generally do any of your work for you. That's not the same as necessarily having a study buddy. It's not the same as going to a tutor. Tutors should be asking questions more than telling content or giving answers. In some cases, tutors can help you discover what is really happening or decode what is really happening in a writing prompt. Sometimes they have specific strategies based on your need that they can help you with, but they should not be giving you content or ideas for content. They should be asking you questions and helping you generate from your own experience what the content of that essay should be. A good tutor should. Also, self-plagiarism is a thing. Copying your own work from an essay you've written from another paper without instructor approval is usually discouraged. When you don't get instructor permission, that's a big deal. If someone takes an English 101 class and sees a similar and takes an essay from an English 101 class and tries to submit it as an English 102 class, one, they're forgetting that if it's at the same institution or using the same plagiarism checker, it's likely that their essay's already stored and has been submitted to another system and will automatically pop up with a warning for teachers. Depending on the specific plagiarism checker, that'll look a little different. But you just need to know that that's easy to know. But if you try and take a paper from English 101 and submit it for English 102 because the assignments are very similar and you just add a couple sources, that is going to come back. And that is going to be a problem because it's basically trying to get paid for the same job twice. So don't do that. It's considered academically dishonest. I have had classes where I had to write a 10-page paper for one class, a 10-page paper for another class. One wanted the equivalent of like a literature review or an annotated bibliography, and the other one wanted an argument. So what I did is I talked to both professors and said, in this class I'm going to do this part of it, and in this class I'm going to do this part of it, and they're all going to come together so that I get a 20-page paper at the end so that I have something I can try and publish. Obviously, not everyone's going to have that situation, but I made sure I was completely above board by talking to everyone. That's usually not the situation first-year writers are coming up against. It's whether sometimes first-year writers plagiarize for silly reasons. And silly reasons would be they got stressed and didn't have time to do citations. They didn't track their citations well enough in the first place, or they don't have time to write an essay, so they go and try and hodgepodge things from the internet together, which still all trigger plagiarism checks. It's just we see every single source. And I can't show you a specific report from Turnitin, but it will give me word for word where you got that, the specific website, where it's been published. Sometimes it'll be in 3 different websites, and you don't even know that, so be careful. And when I say be careful, I mean don't do it. So how do we avoid academic dishonesty? How do we avoid plagiarism? Write your own stuff. Keep track of your sources. Remember that you can cite sources without directly quoting them. So if you paraphrase, but you're borrowing a key concept from a source, that still needs to be cited even if you're summarizing or putting it in your own words. If you're paraphrasing it into your own words. Summarizing, you can say the basics of this article is this, and here's the main citation. That's a little bit different, so there's a genre spin on summarizing. But if you're in an essay and you're paraphrasing someone's thought, it still needs an in-text citation, the little parenthetical, even if you're not direct quoting word for word. If you're changing some of the words, that's still borrowing, and you can still have serious academic consequences for it, for not doing it right. If you borrow text, that's direct quotes. If you're borrowing information, that could be something from a data table, that could be from like CIA.gov, or name your data source. But you've embedded information that you didn't do the research on, and we need to, as a rhetorical consideration, as a scientific consideration, we need to know where that source of information came from to see if it's reliable. More important on that case. But from a plagiarism standpoint, that's not your research. It's not your own original research. I wouldn't want someone taking data from my data set and not saying that's where they got it, pretending that they got it from their own. That would be wrong. So those are things that trip people up. Remember that you don't have to, even if you're not direct quoting, which is totally fine, even if you're paraphrasing, if you're not borrowing word for word, that still needs a parenthetical citation. If you're borrowing information, that still needs a parenthetical citation, every sentence. Now, what I see happen is people will hodgepodge things from the internet. They'll do great synthesis work, pull a sentence here, a thought here, a sentence here, a thought here, and suddenly when I tell them about the importance of citation, they realize every sentence is a borrowed sentence, that they haven't actually had original thoughts of their own, even if they think they're lame original thoughts. I'd rather have what you consider your junk than someone else's awesome that's been stolen. Or borrowed inappropriately, or whatever you want to call it. So that becomes a different problem. I would rather have all the citations, but it's still not an effective practice as a writer to borrow every sentence from another source. It's great synthesis in one sense because you're drawing all these thoughts together, but you need to process them yourself, put them into your own words, add some of your own analytical commentary, all of that. So this is important, and I'm not just giving you a standard plagiarism video because there are 2 things I want you to be aware of. 1, plagiarism is considered unethical and immoral. But that's not the key thing. The reason teachers get so upset about it is that it undercuts a key value of education. Aside from the fact that it's basically stealing someone else's work and getting paid for the work they did. It is undercutting the value that a college education or an academic environment holds dear, and that is that you actually learn something. Because if you plagiarize, you are saying, I didn't want or need to learn this lesson. I borrowed it from someone else. And if I'm not interested in learning, that's a problem. that's what people really get upset about. And it also feels disingenuous. It's like being, as a teacher, like I get emotionally attached. I care about the time I take reading your essays, and I care if I give peer reviews, and I care about your classmates' time. And if they're reading someone else's essay and they think it's yours, then all the commentary we might give you becomes meaningless, and we are robbed of time. So remember that one part, that you don't want to undercut the key value of an education. It's not just about having a degree, it's about learning. It's about learning and engaging, and even your own, like I said, what you might consider your own junk is still better than someone else's awesome, because it's authentically yours and you are showing that you're processing and learning and thinking through things. And I would rather have that than a pristine essay any day of the week. There are consequences, is the last thing I'll say, for plagiarism. At best, you have to take a 0 on an essay or rewrite the essay for credit, depending on the teacher. This is based on the instructor's discretion, based on what they perceive the situation to be. At best, you get a 0 on an essay or project, and you or you have to completely rewrite it. At worst, it can progress through a series of, you completely fail the course, you get a mark on your transcript that indicates when people go to look at it that they need to be careful of the work that you do because there's been issues in the past. Or at another level, there have been people who have been withdrawn or who have been expelled from colleges for plagiarism. And so those are serious issues. There are serious consequences. So I say this to say, don't plagiarize. Don't be academically dishonest. Do your own authentic learning and your own authentic work, and it will get you further in the long run than trying to borrow. Again, academia is not a sprint. It is a long marathon cross-country run, and you can run it at different paces, but you can't have someone else run it for you. Have fun. Bye.